Hi, I'm immigration attorney John Khosravi, and today we're going to go over 5 different ways that your marriage green card could get denied. These are 5 different typical ways I've seen people's marriage green card application, either through consular processing through the embassy or through adjustment of status in the U.S. with the USCIS, go bad and get denied, a complete nightmare. So I really want you to listen to these and be prepared, and do not file the case until you have these things in order, or maybe, unfortunately, you can't file at all. But do listen to what they are. Before doing that, please click like, subscribe, and click that bell icon so you get updates. We do regular videos here, and also on the Clip channel, JQK Immigration Clips, where you find the latest updates to the news on a constant basis in short snippets. I think you're going to like it. And with that, let's get it started. Thanks for tuning in today. We're going to go over 5 important things today for those thinking about filing for a marriage-based green card to avoid them to get denied, because these are 5 typical reasons and ways I've seen denials happen, and we're going to go through those 5 different sections. Now keep in mind, this is not individual advice. You got to consult with an immigration attorney in private. If you want to contact my office, email me at info@jqklaw and just describe really briefly what the situation is, and we can take it from there. But these are real life situations that I deal with, and you'll see an example number 1. It's just something that happened 10 minutes ago. I got an email about this, and that's what got me thinking about doing this exact video. So number 1, when it comes to a reason for a case to be denied, is not giving all the information that's needed, because that could make the officer think you're lying and accuse you of fraud or misrepresentation, which is a very serious charge. And that example I talked about earlier that I just got, the couple had gone to the marriage green card interview. The foreign spouse had done military service before and did not reference it in the paperwork. And the failure to do that is going to cause the case to be denied. And if it accuses you of fraud or misrepresentation, then it's really hard. It's very difficult. There are waivers for it to kind of overcome that accusation of fraud or misrepresentation they make against you. But that's the last thing we want to do. If these people, this couple had come to me first, we would have had all the paperwork together with explanations to try to cover ourselves and make sure we're forthcoming with all the information, but they did not say it in the green card application and in a previous visa application at the embassy. So we're going to go through it to see what happens, but this could have all been avoided by just giving the information beforehand to avoid these accusations of fraud or misrepresentation. Now you might say, I made an honest mistake, I wasn't thinking about it, I didn't intend to do it. It's not that easy. This misrepresentation could happen even if you didn't think about it. If it was an honest mistake, they do not look at it that way. This is a really harsh hammer that drops on you, so don't take it lightly. U.S. immigration is an extremely hard and difficult process when it comes to how they view people and how they treat them. A lot of times I have clients who come from foreign countries, and when they fill out applications and the questionnaires I give them, half of it is missing, or the information not complete, or it's kind of inaccurate. They don't realize how strict the Immigration Department, USCIS, and the Consular Office at Department of State and the embassies are, and how everything has to be exact. Your address history, your life history, your work history, all the organizations and groups you're a member of, all this stuff has to be exactly there, and discrepancies, information missing, and all that kind of stuff can and will be used against you. So please don't make mistakes like this, not only in the marriage green card application, in the tourist visa application you make, in the student visa application that you make, any kind of interaction you have with the U.S. government. Please do not miss information, because that can and will be, in most cases, used against you in your future cases. So let's move on to number 2 for a marriage green card case. What could get your case denied? Well, not knowing your spouse well enough. Now, in this application process, there's a lot of documents we have to send, so you really need to have documentation of your relationship to show the courting process and then the marriage and how it happened. It could be, marriage, wedding photos, wedding cards, and all that kind of stuff. If you download the no-cost guide, the Ultimate Marriage Green Card Guide I wrote at www.marriageimmigrationlaw.com, there's a lot of resources there that help you with this and discuss this, but you gotta have paperwork to show the relationship. And even then, after that, there's gonna be an interview. With USCIS, you'll both go in person, or at the embassy, the foreign person will go alone, but you gotta be able to document your relationship and be able to talk about it, have updated pictures, travel records. If you're at the interview together, be able to answer questions about your personal life. Where did you meet? What date was it? Where did you go on your first date? What did you have? What movie did you watch last night? If you saw a movie, all the details you would expect a couple to know, you should know. Now sometimes, especially the husbands, they don't remember all the details, they're not paying attention, but that's not good. That will be looked at as if you're lying, and if that happens, they don't trust your relationship, be prepared for a nightmare of several years of reviews and investigations and potentially denials and removal and deportation, or at the embassy, just denying the case, you're stuck outside away for your loved one. So be prepared. This is a very serious matter. Make sure you go through these. Again, that ebook that I talked about has 3 or 4 pages of practice questions at the end for you to be able to go over to be prepared to answer the question that they have. As long as we have a bona fide real relationship, it should be fine, but don't go in there blind. Be prepared and just have the answers ready and have the paperwork and documentation to show evidence of your relationship ready. If you don't know what you have to give or you just can't pull it together, talk with an immigration attorney so they can go through your life history, your relationship history, and try to zone in on places where you can bring documents out to show it, because you might not see it or think about it, but we've been doing this for so long that it's easier for us to identify and know what they're looking for, and we can bring that out to help prepare the application for success. The third reason I see denials happen, it's really one of the biggest ones, is not understanding inadmissibility. So in immigration law, there's a statute called the Immigration Nationality Act Section 212, which is called the Inadmissibility Statute, which is essentially saying who we don't want in the United States. And if you violate one of these, you will not be able to get a visa even, but especially not a green card for America. And so because this section is very technical, it's legalese, it's the primary thing that an immigration attorney does is to review your case and be prepared for these inadmissibility issues, because those are the ones that it's not easy for someone to understand that's not a lawyer. Now typically when people file a marriage case, they can think about documents they have in common for their relationship. They can fill out the forms about their address history for the last 5 years, their work history for the last 5 years. But when it comes to inadmissibility, it's very nuanced and it takes a lot of time for even an immigration attorney to understand. Sometimes we have a J1 2-year home residency requirement. This is when you had a J visa, a cultural exchange visa in the past. And sometimes they create a situation where you have to go back to your home country for 2 years before you can come back and get a green card. People don't know that. They file for the green card and then the officer says, well, you had a J1, you didn't go back for 2 years, you're denied. There's student visa abusers. There are people that came on a student visa to go to high school in the United States, at a private high school. They leave the private high school, go to a public high school for 2 years or more, something like that. They become student visa abusers. They have to go back home as well. There are people that are subject to a 3 and 10 year bar. I'm not going to go too much detail into that, but many times when people don't hire immigration attorneys and they go to notarios, these are people that just fill out the paperwork, they don't realize that they're subject to a 3 or 10 year bar, or will be when they go to the interview at the US Embassy. And all of a sudden they're stuck outside for 10 years and it's a nightmare, and we're not expecting it, but there are ways to deal with that in a better way. Sometimes you could just file for it without going to the embassy. Sometimes you get a waiver beforehand, the I-601A waiver. This is getting kind of technical, but these are the things that I see pop up, that people are not understanding the immigration laws, the inadmissibility statute that goes with it, and they get caught, especially when they don't have good guidance and they hire a notario or a form filler, because it's more than just a form. There's law involved here, and there's a reason I do what I do, and there's a reason why they make books and books about this stuff. But that's one of the main things, it should be number one probably, that I'm worried about, and that's what my consultations are for. When people come to me and they say, a lot of times people call me and say, what's the price, how long it is? I'm like, that's secondary. I need to do an admissibility review to make sure you could even do this. And for me to be able to check admissibility, I have to ask a lot of questions. I have to review a lot of your documents and check a lot of things. Sometimes do Freedom of Information Act requests, get your background. Sometimes I need police and criminal records. I might need, your embassy forms, your visa forms, your passport, and the visa stamps, entry stamps. I need to review all this stuff to make sure it's even possible in the first place, because sometimes one thing will be wrong and it's still possible, but then I got to spend a bunch of time and a bunch of work doing that. So when you ask about how long and how much, I can't tell you until I know exactly what I'm going to do. And so that's what that inadmissibility review is needed at our consultation session. The fourth thing that pops up that I see is very problematic, especially for people doing themselves, is the affidavit of support. And this goes to the public charge rule, the idea that they don't want you to be a foreign person coming here and not be able to take care of yourself. So in a marriage green card case, typically the U.S. spouse, either the green card holding spouse or U.S. citizen spouse, whichever it is, they have to show they make enough money, and if they don't, they have enough assets, or if not, they have a person that's in America, either a green card holder or US citizen, that could do the support. And I found that for people doing on their own, this is the most complicated part. The form is not well designed, doesn't read well, it's very confusing, and even USCIS officers many times will confuse it and send you an RFE, a request for evidence, wanting the same documents you already sent them. You'll be confused, like, why do they do that? Well, it's a very confusing document the way it's written. It could be made better, but in the last 20, 30 years, it has not. So we got to work with what we got to work with. And so what I find is people, either they don't have the finances to support their spouse and they submit a case and it gets denied, or they have it, but it's just not properly done or not properly understood by the reviewer. So that's why we get in and make sure, we're covered in the beginning before we start anything, because the last thing we want to do is start a case that's going to go nowhere. That doesn't make any sense. And so we want to go in strong and be prepared to have responses for everything that's going on, especially if you're going to use assets or a joint sponsor, or if you have business income, you own your own business. The easiest way for them to understand and to do it is if you're employed, you're getting a regular paycheck in the United States, you're a W-2 employee in the United States. That's very easy to understand. But if you're self-employed and you take business income, that throws a lot of problems in there. If you're using assets, like you have money in the bank or you have a lot of cars or houses, that gets complicated. And then if you're going to add a joint sponsor, that adds another level of complexity. Sometimes you'll want to use the assets and money of the foreign person. That is possible at times, but that has complications as well. Again, I don't want to go into too much detail on this stuff because it's going to create its own video, but the financial portion not being in check is the fourth reason, one of the five reasons that I see people have major issues that lead to denials of their marriage-based green card. Which actually leads us to number 5, and that is not having the proper documents. You think this is simple, but it's not. Many times people do not have their original birth certificate, or it doesn't have their name on it, or it has an incorrect date on it, or they've lost their passport, which doesn't allow them to show that they entered the US lawfully, or they don't have their previous divorce certificate. So how are they going to prove that the current marriage that they're in is valid if they can't show that the previous marriage ended in divorce, if they had multiple spouses in the past, previous spouses, not at the same time? And so when you don't have any of these documents, it's going to be a problem. And many times when I see people file these cases pro se on their own, they don't realize that they're supposed to submit this kind of stuff. And then they get our feedback and it says, listen, we need your divorce certificate, your birth certificate's not correct, it's not translated correctly. So in general, just not having the basic civil documents that are necessary as part of this process. Sometimes it could be your Form I-20. When you're a student visa holder, they'll want to see that to make sure you're going to school. Some transcripts maybe, those are needed as well. So not having these basic documents will create major problems and denials in your marriage green card case. So the whole point of all this is have everything ready at the beginning. Do not move forward. Do not go to war, if you will, without having your ammunition and your body armor, all this stuff ready, because it's a war out there. Because if you're unsuccessful, you're dead in the United States. You can't come here. You can't live in the United States. And I hate to put it in such gory, such graphic and dark kind of terminology, but your life in the U.S. is over. You can't come here if you get these denials or if they accuse you of fraud or misrepresentation and the like. So you really want to go to this battle prepared to live in the United States, which means having your paperwork together, all in order, making sure you don't have inadmissibility, deniable issues that could prevent you from coming in, having your finances together, having your paperwork about your relationship, and knowing your spouse well enough you could talk about it, ask questions. Some people are just those kind of, I've seen people who don't like talking about themselves, don't like talking about their relationships. Sometimes they're so caught up in their work or in video games or something, they don't pay attention to their spouse enough to be answering these questions. But that doesn't fly here. We're looking for these good relationships that, could talk about it and have all these documents together. So be prepared. If you need help with this kind of stuff, just email my office, info@jqqlaw.com, or better yet, first, download the Ultimate Marriage Green Card Guide. It's a no-cost ebook that breaks this all down and gives you the initial strategy and paperwork you need to think about this. And once you have that, then schedule a consultation. So when you come to the meeting, you're prepared to ask good questions. Not the basic stuff, because you already have those answered for free through the ebook, www.marriageimmigrationlaw.com. And you come in with more detailed kind of stuff. So we go to the core of the issue and make sure everything is all right before you file that case, before you spend any money really on this filing fees and the total fees with regards to attorney fees, or if you're filing your own. Before you start this, get this ball rolling, make sure you have everything in order. I hope this information helped. I enjoy talking about this stuff. I do it all day because I love helping couples come and live in the United States. I'm headquartered in Los Angeles, California, but I help people from across the United States and the world, and we have colleagues everywhere in America that can help you. Just reach out to info@jqqlaw.com. Send an email. briefly describe what's going on in your case, what your thoughts are, and we'll go back and forth and figure out how we can help you. Until next one, be safe. God bless. Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed this educational video. We have a second channel with much more information as well at JQK Immigration Clips. Please check that out. Also, you'll find our social media site has a lot more videos, images, and information about the U.S. immigration process. Please check those out on the various social media websites.